Building Department. We've contracted out with them. There are two types of building permit applications. One is residential and one is commercial. We're going to talk about residential today. And permit applications are available at the City of Dickinson's website. The county tax director's office does keep some hard copies over there. It's recommended for people to just go to the city or go to the city's website to get those and complete the process. And they need to, in addition to filling out the permit, they need, well, we'll get to that next one. Just to talk about permitting fees, building and construction fees are based on the valuation of the structure of what's going to be built. So you can see any building permit fees up to $1,000. It's a $50 fee, and then it's a sliding scale. It's a sliding scale based upon the valuation. Some of the other fees that are charged is for plan review. Residential building department review is $80 an hour. Mechanical permits, and that's for things like heat and air conditioning and so on. That includes single and mobile home, multifamily, and commercial. For the first unit is $50. For each additional one is $15. To replace a furnace or water heater is $35. And of those fees, the county share is 30%. That's a contract that we have with the city. Just an example, this was a house that was recently there. Final inspection was done and a certificate of occupancy was issued for it. It was approximately 2,500 square feet with a on both on the upper level and 2,500 square feet on the lower level. There was a 1,000 square foot garage associated with it. It was built per current international residential code and the state building code. The valuation of it was approximately $810,000. The fees that were charged to the applicant were just a little under $4,400. Just wanted to tell you that because just to give you an idea of what the fees are. For ones that are lesser, I did ask the city to print these up. If the estimated cost of a house was about $300,000, the estimated cost of a permit's about $1,500. Because I know $810,000 is kind of on the high end. If you had a $400,000 house, then you're talking about a little over $2,000 for permit fees. If you're talking about a house that's about $600,000, then it's a little over $3,200 for fees. And this is how the building permit application submittal works. The person who wants the permit turns in a completed permit application, and that's the one that's online with the city, or you can obtain it over at the tax director's office. They submit blueprints of the structure or structures, and they ask for digital ones also. Although I know a lot of them that come in are hard copy. A plot plan of the lot area showing the location of the structure and the setbacks from the lot lines, and that usually includes the street and the access point, how they're going to get into and out of the property. If they're having their water from the Southwest District, if they're having a well, then they need something from the Southwestern District Health Unit approval for digging a well. If they are going to hook up to Southwest Water Authority, then they need to show that they have water and sewer services, and also for septic from the Southwestern District Health Unit, and then the contractor's name and license number. And this includes any carpenters, people doing cement, plumbing, contractors, heating, electrical, and so on. Also what's required in the application is a legal description of the property. A 911 property address is required before the permit is issued. If the house is going to be located in a FEMA floodplain, then a floodplain development application, as well as a surveyor stamp certification of soil elevation is required. And all living areas of a building in the floodplain must be 1 foot above the base flood elevation. And then any copies, if the county commission granted any variances, in terms of setbacks or other development standards, or if there's a conditional use permit application that was approved, those need to come in with the permit also. And then the building permit is submitted to the city. County Planning and Zoning reviews it for zoning code compliance, and also to make sure it complies with the National Flood Insurance Program. Buildings and code staff reviews for compliance with the state building code. And if it is approved, a building permit is issued and the person who turns in the application is notified. After that, as they go through the construction phase, there are inspections that are performed by staff of building and codes. And at the end, once it's completed and there's a successful final inspection, a certificate of occupancy is issued, but issued after all code compliance is met and confirmed. Here's some additional permits because they're in the county. These are things that are paid to different agencies. If you want to get an approach permit from the county, it's a $25 fee. Electrical permit fees from the states, those fees are based upon the job cost, and those are online. Those are online with the electrical board. And then plumbing permits from the states, they do the inspections for that. It's $100 for the certificate plus $10 per fixture. So this is just to let people know this is what the process is. This is how much the fees are, and so on. So just to let you know what the permitting application is like. Okay. And then these are the proposed amendments, and there had been discussion about this approximately a year ago, and staff had worked with staff from the tax director's office, and also we had assistance from members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And these are the proposed amendments. The first amendment is a change in definition to farmer. At the time that the zoning ordinance was changed, the definition of farmer was someone who is with the state. That was in section 57. Was they have to earn 51% or more of their annual income from the operation of the farm. That has changed. I believe that changed about 5 years ago, to someone who's it's 66%. In order to qualify as a farmer. I think there was some other language in there too that they used to talk about off-farm income, and I think that's been eliminated, hasn't it? And just so that the county doesn't have to keep changing its definition of a farmer every time the state amends the Century Code, just to say that it's somebody who files and qualifies for a farm residence property tax exemption according to chapter 57.0208 of the Century Code. The next change is just one to make it, they had it as building applications. The application is what people fill out, the permit is what they actually get. And then just making it, non-specific in terms of who actually issues the building permits. We just say it's from the county, and that gives some flexibility. And also another change is that the section does not apply to buildings or structures used in connection with agriculture operations. That's how it appears in the Century Code, and constructed by farmers as defined in. And we put down the new where the definition is found in our zoning ordinance. However, a building permit and occupancy code shall be required for any building used for human habitation or by the public, regardless of the acreage of the farm. And this makes the approval of this would make this consistent with chapter 54 of the Century Code. And then this just reiterates that a person who does not qualify for a farm residence property taxes exemption according to that portion of the Century Code and/or has not filed the forms required to qualify for a farm residence property tax exemption shall not commence construction, alteration, or conversion of any building or structure without first obtaining a building permit from the county. So that would mean if somebody had not gotten this exemption, didn't have this exemption, and they started to build a barn or something like that, they would need a building permit for that. And also that a building permit is issued pursuant to these provisions. Again, it's just changing it from application to permit to these provisions shall expire 1 year from the date of issuance. So those are the recommended changes. I know we had some discussion a couple of months ago about how to amend the zoning ordinance. And during the research, we found out what is in the Century Code in both 54 and 57. Based upon that, the need for consistency with state statute and also bringing some of these terms, make them consistent with actual terms that are used. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any of the commission have any questions? Yes.
Okay, just to clarify, Steve, there, you said 70% of all the building permit fees that you showed here, they go to the city, right?
30%, yeah, 70%.
The county keeps 30%,
The
correct?
county keeps 30%.
So
That's in
I
the
guess,
contract.
what am I'm a little confused here. When you look back at the amount of volume of work that was going into zoning and stuff here in the past, and I'm sure you can remember, you've been here longer than anybody, we used to do 4 or 5 applications a month. Now we're down to 1, 2, probably every couple months. Don't we have enough staff to do our own building permits? Wouldn't that be a program that you yourself could run so we could probably bring the cost of these permits down so it ain't $4,000 for $800,000 structure?
Okay, two things. First of all, the number of applications that come in doesn't have any, there are more building permits that come in than there are rezoning requests that come in. The second thing is I'm not a building official. So, so for me to review and handle them, I'm not legally able to do that. My specialty is land use planning and zoning, and so on. The building department is a whole separate field.
But under this permitting process, isn't that something we could get up to speed and duplicate that with another office within the county to handle that?
That's going to be a decision of the commission as to whether or not they want to hire a building official or whether or not they want to contract out. When I came here, they did contract out with the city. Then they decided to contract out with an engineering firm, and then they went back to having the city do it. The thing is, the difference between contracting and hiring people, and this is I'm not going to comment on this one way or the other, but the difference between hiring people and contracting out is when you hire people, you then assume their salaries and their benefits and everything else, and then you have to acquire all the equipment and computer programs and so on that are associated with permitting. The thing about contracting out is you've got people who have already got those things and you're not paying all their benefits and so on. But again, that's really a question for the county commission about whether or not they want to have their own staff do this or whether or not they want to contract out and have somebody else do this.
Thank you.
That was discussed a couple of years ago, and then the commission at that time decided it was best to go with the county because they had the manpower to do it, and then without, because we were contracting before with another firm, and we ended that and went with the city. We were getting better results there.
But then, I guess that was back to my initial comment there. We're not as heavily involved with the,
There's still a lot of other permits that don't come through planning and zoning that they deal with on a bigger basis. I don't know what the numbers are. I saw lately, I guess there's quite a few. If you want to address how many permits you guys would deal with, and besides what comes through here.
Good afternoon, Leonard Schwint, building official for the city of Dickinson at Stark County. To date, we're around 58 permits, and the fees that have been remitted to the county to date actually not, up to November is $53,000. Just to give you an idea, that's 30% of, so we still have a couple months to, I'll do a year end so you get those direct numbers, probably end of December or January.
Mr. Schmidt, are these the exact same fees that you charge a city resident that's building?
Correct. In addition, with the city, we have water and sewer connections, which they're substantially higher based on those connection fees.
As just a matter of thought, is it possible for the county to negotiate a lower fee schedule than what the city's charging?
That would be up to, I guess, the county commission and the city commission.
Thank you.
One other quick comment, Mr. Chairman. Some of the recommendations, and I could understand it in the urban setting, like in the city of Dickinson, that require under some of these regulations and such, but when you get out into a rural area where you're not one house on top of another, wouldn't it require a little less regulatory process there to accommodate what you need to meet the safety needs of building a structure?
Well, the building itself is universal. It's the same whether you have a neighbor or not. It's the minimum standards per the building code. And the state regulations is what we follow, whether it's in the county or in the city. The only difference would be as far as like sprinkler systems, where if a building needs to be sprinkled in the county, obviously there's a substantial, the cost is a lot higher.
There would be some issues probably on financing through the banks too, if they, they don't pass inspections. There's some issues of not getting loans on homes too, right?
Correct. And there are people that are exempt from permits that still do get permits based on financing and insurance.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions? If there's no other questions, then I'm gonna open the public hearing up. Does anybody from the public have any comments on these changes? Anybody from the public have any comment?
Thank you. My name's Farron Richards. I'm a Starr County resident. The one question I have is when it comes to rural structures and whatnot, the individual is responsible for the sewer system and as well as their water getting into their homes. We don't have that same in the city. That's required by the city. They put the well or they put the water to the house and the sewer out to the street. So therefore, how is it that the cost is more just as much in the rural area than it is in the city?
I think he just mentioned there's an extra fee for water and sewer, isn't it, in the city, than on top of what we.
Water and sewer connections are essentially sometimes actually higher than the permit fee.
Where at?
In the city. Yes. It is up to Southwest Water as far as the water connection or if it's a well. For the building permit side of it, they just, you would have to have potable water. And you'd have to show that as part of your permit that you have potable water.
Okay.
As well with the amount these fees are being charged out at this point, there's an insurance policy, you would think, that comes along with it. When I know brand new houses that were built in the county that had permits and their sewers didn't work. And the county isn't responsible for repairing or taking any measures to take and make sure that's rectified. Where does where's the county's responsibility for what their people have signed off on?
You know, they had water and sewer, that's done by the health department. They have to approve that for that through the
Okay,
state.
but
Yeah.
that's fine. Where's their responsibility if the sewer fails?
So I guess
We're paying professionals to do this job.
it's like anything. I guess you always have the options of civil suits or if somebody does something improperly.
It literally says in the permit you cannot sue the county.
We don't have any liability in that issue. I guess we don't actually do that. The state actually inspects that of the water and sewer system if they're feasible to use.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Any other comments from the public? If not, I'm gonna close the public hearing on that. Is there any questions from the commission or anything?
So, Mr. Chair, and maybe this is a question that Mr. Josephson can answer for me. So, under the proposed definition, if an individual, an ag operator, files the exemption with the state, and they are intending to build a new home on their operation, they need to have permits, but they would become exempt from property tax. Is that correct, or what's?
Yeah,
that-
it's two separate things,
Okay.
okay? It's two separate things. 57, Chapter 57 of the Century Code does exempt them from property taxes. We have the tax director staff here if they want to address that. But Chapter 54 governs the structures, so that they're two separate issues.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Steve, maybe you could answer. This 51%, you want that, I understand you want to go to, I believe the state is at 61 or 66%?
66.
66%, yes.
But didn't we comment, or we discussed that a little bit at our last meeting, where we're not obliged to have to go step and lock with the state in their proposals? Because the 51% is where we're at, and I noticed here, just looking at other counties around here, a lot of them are at that 51%. Couldn't we just leave that one alone?
Again, here's the thing, and I may ask the tax director's office to address this too. It is really difficult right now to tell who's tax exempt and who's not. If somebody comes in here and they meet the requirements of the state, then it's real easy to determine that they're exempt. With the 51%, we would have to ask them to come in, bring all their earnings statements, bring in whatever else, to prove that they are, that they are farmers. But I know there was another point that was made before, is that actually with the new state requirements has actually led to more people getting tax or applying for tax exemptions and receiving them. I would just assume that rather than every time there's a change made, that there's a change made to this, we don't change it. I mean, the state could very easily change it, probably change it to something else. This way, it's going to be whatever the Century Code says. I don't know, Natalie, do you want to add anything to that, or?
Chairman, members of the board, I'm Natalie Wandler, the Stark County Tax Director. My only comment with that is the farm residence exemption is on the legislative plate every 2 years. They're gonna change it this way, they're gonna change it that way. Whether it goes through or it doesn't go through, I mean, it did in 19, it hasn't since, they've left it alone. But if we're gonna change this, I would like to see it just say according to Century Code and the Century Code number. That way, if they change it next year, we're not up against the same thing that.
I'm gonna ask the state's attorney, but wasn't there a ruling with the courts when the laws were passed by the state, the county or city can be more strict, but they can't be more lenient, and there was a ruling on that, or?
Well, Chapter 1133 is the planning and zoning statute, or the county zoning statute, and it gives the county quite a bit of discretion as far as what you guys want to do with your planning and zoning. So in some instances, yes, I'm not going to say blanket statement that that's the case, but yes, in some instances, that is the case. But we're talking about building permits, which are, they want this to reflect what chapter 57 says, but that's like Steve said, a separate issue. That's a property tax exemption. You're looking at a permitting issue here. I think they want it for ease of the permitting process, because if the individual can show that they're meeting the property tax exemption at 66%, then the county knows that they're at this exemption for the farming exemption, and then the permitting would follow suit, I guess.
Okay.
Right, Steve? That's
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I would like to clarify what you said, just to, so it all works out in my head. So if we would keep it at 51 today, then those people between 51 and 65% of farming income, we'd have to try to prove that. Whereas the farming, because the farming tax exemption isn't met until 66%?
So it wouldn't be on us to prove it. It would be on the individual who wants the exemption to prove that they are over the 51%.
Okay.
If they can provide the tax records that they would have to provide to the state at the 66% to show that they are at the exemption, then I think it just makes your process easier, right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mr. Chairman, but as a P and Z committee, it's not up for us to police taxation purposes. We're only just setting code for building purposes. So if we are going to leave it at 51%, it just means that our building, our Steve's office is now going to be responsible for making sure that they are within that 51%, instead of bringing in their qualification document that says they've met the state taxation limit. So where do we want to put the work? You know, if we put it back, if we leave it at 51, it's going to leave it back at Steve's office to have to ask this person that's out in the country that wants to build a house, you know, can I see your taxes?
Well, wouldn't that be his responsibility, the person requesting the permit, if they feel that they're if they come in there and their comment is they're under 51%? Okay, this county would be taking their word for it, so to speak.
Right.
If they're not giving accurate information to the county, well, then they're the ones that are liable. It ain't the county's responsibility. They've done their part, they asked what they're, so I would say leave it at the 51%, why would we want to increase it? And if we're gonna worry about what the legislature's gonna do, who
Yeah,
knows?
taxation purposes has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, just leave it where it's at, is what I feel.
But just to be clear, Steve, setting taxation aside here, whether you're exempt or not, this resolution that you're proposing or recommending would require everyone, whether you were exempt or not, to get a building permit. Is that
For a
correct?
house,
For a
or a
house.
place where there's gonna be human occupation for something. So it wouldn't apply to you build a barn, you build something else, you know, a chicken coop, something like that. It wouldn't, it wouldn't apply to that, but it would bring it consistent with the Century Code, which does not exempt, you know, houses are, well, they call it what, places of habitat or to be occupied by people, so.
Any other questions or discussion? No other discussion, I'd look for a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion I would move the Stark County Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of ZTA 01-23, the proposed amendments to Article 2, rules and definitions regarding the definition of a farmer, and Article 8, administration and enforcement 8.9, permits and fees with Stark County zoning ordinance adopted October 2nd, 2012, regarding building applications and building permit exemptions as meeting goals, objectives, and implementation strategies of Stark County Comprehensive Plan, and also being in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, for discussion purposes, I will second that
Okay,
motion.
a second. And then open for discussion then.
So once again, Mr. Josephson, any outside farm structure, barn, that is not covered under this. It does not affect those types of structures that an individual needs to run their operation. Is that correct? Am I thinking correct?
If it is for farm operation, yes. And if they meet that definition of farmer as it is in the code. And that's consistent with what's in the Century Code.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, I'll go roll call vote then.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is it possible to put an amendment in there to strike the 66 down to 51%?
That's not the motion that was made by the two that made the motion. but yeah.
Correct. Well, I would make that amendment if we can do it, but I don't know if that's the time to do it.
It'd have to be agreed by the two that made the motion second, I guess, for amendment on it, right? If not, to move forward, then the roll call vote, then Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner Freilich,
Aye.
Commissioner Larson,
No,
Commissioner Richard,
No,
Commissioner Sobelik. And the chair votes aye. Motion carried. Just for the record, too, we have absent from our meeting, I guess, too, is commissioners, we got three commissioners missing, Commissioner White and Alderman and Dressler are all absent today. No one on the phone, no. Okay. Next, then, we go to the planning items. Mr. Joseph, you have some other items?
Yes, we do. The next item is, we're gonna give a comprehensive plan update to, Commissioner Freilich and I are gonna give a comprehensive plan update to the commission. And Commissioner Freilich, do you want to talk about the last technical advisory committee meeting and the survey results, or just?
Well, hopefully, Mr. Josephson, you have some of that data in front of you. I believe it was all sent out to all of the board members. That group met at the Dakota Room, that advisory group, and the SRF, I believe, our consultants were there to present the data, the surveys that they had received in. There were some interesting data numbers that came in, both positively and maybe interesting numbers that, not a lot, I guess maybe not a lot of overall surveys that were submitted, but there were comments that were brought forth. I don't have anything specific in front of me to speak to more to that. There was three, all of you that were there was three of the public input meetings, South Hart, Dickinson, and out at Taylor,
In Taylor, yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Right.
That they gathered public input at those. So interesting comments. It's going to be interesting. I know the SRF has gone back and they're going to start to take some of that data now to start to draft, move forth and draft that comprehensive plan. So it's going to be an interesting process to see how this thing continues to move forth.
Right, and I did speak to Dave Sweeney of SRF today. We had our bi-weekly meeting. They're starting to talk about putting together a future land use map, which I think is going to be helpful to all of us. For those of you, I sent the survey out to each of the planning and zoning the survey results to each of the planning and zoning commissioners, as well as the county commissioners. We've also posted a link on the county's website. And I think also asked to put it on social media so that people could see it. And you're right, Commissioner Freilich, I think overall, the way the county is developing it wasn't that big of a sample. It's about 130 people, but still, at those meetings that we had, the public input meetings, we had some interesting discussions in that. I get the sense that the way that the county has been developing over the last few years has been, I think that's kind of the direction, that's kind of I got the impression that was, that was the direction that people seemed okay with. You also may want to read through it too to see how they ranked different, different departments in terms of their performance. They absolutely loved Elena's department, and I think also the, tax director, some of the other departments, veteran services and so on, because this was a survey of that. But here's something I did want to talk about, which was one of the exercises in front of the Technical Advisory Committee, as well as at those public input meetings, was how do you want to see the county grow? And this is the unincorporated county. And they went through this exercise of mapping where I believe the yellow dots are, if we can go back again, the yellow dots were residential and the red dots were commercial, industrial, and so on. And based upon that input and also the comments that they received, we can go to the next slide. They identified some growth focus areas, areas that for whatever reasons they're going to look at as, for potential, growth and make some recommendations as to how growth, recommendations of how growth would proceed in those areas. And I just wanted to make you aware of this. This is just discussion at this time. I think they're starting to, to put some recommendations in their future land use map that reflects this. But I just wanted to let the Planning and Zoning Commission know where they're at in the process. So you could go to the last one. And this was the next step. So say this was a growth area here, and you probably recognize that. Recognize that area, west of town where Marathon is, and so on. That you take that area and then you make future land use map recommendations. This is just preliminary. This is just an example. So they may recommend to the county that the yellow areas would be residential. The purple areas would be limited to industrial growth. The red areas for commercial, for commercial type growth. These are the kinds of things that they're going to come up with as part of their developing a future land use plan. And then the last slide is, this is the project schedule. So during the winter of 23 and into 24, they're actually going to do area planning and goals and strategies. And then by spring of 2024, action steps, how to implement the plan, and then an actual living document that'll be presented to the public, to the Planning and Zoning Commission for public hearing, and ultimately approval by the county commission. Speaking to Dave Sweeney from SRF today, he's thinking about trying to schedule another meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee either sometime in January or early February. So for the three of you who sit on that in different capacities, they'll be in touch and they'll have material for you to review prior to that meeting. And just wanted to give you an update and let you know where the process is at.
And this survey you're going to put on the website, Stark County website too, right? The results of that?
Yeah, they are on there. If you go to the webpage, it's on the left-hand side of the homepage, so anybody can access that. And like I said, did we put that on social? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on Facebook, and okay, so it was also posted on Facebook. But if anybody has any questions or wants me to send it to them, I certainly can, and would be absolutely willing to.
Okay, and you also have
the only other thing we have here is a draft. Well, there's two other things. First of all, it's a draft schedule for next year, and we don't have. It won't be finalized until we get the city commission dates in
county commission.
County commission dates. Sorry, that's right. I'm over here all day. The county commission dates next. is that what, next, in December and January, December, I think?
We'll be approving them next week on the,
Next week,
on the meeting,
okay.
yeah.
There was one I just wanted to pay attention to, and that is, see where it says November 27th? In November of next year, I'm just pulling this up real quick, the scheduled meeting date would actually be on, it'd actually be the 28th, which is Thanksgiving. So if anybody wants to come and change that date, the date of the Planning and Zoning Commission from the 27th to something maybe earlier that week, let me know. Commissioner Freilich?
I've sat through a zoning meeting the day before Thanksgiving, and when family and/or potential applicants have, are also trying to get ready for a holiday, I would highly suggest at least the Tuesday before
Okay.
that Thanksgiving day, just to accommodate, potential, applicants, even zoning board members, people, to accommodate for those. The one that I sat to went through well into the evening, the night
Okay.
before Thanksgiving.
And I just wanted to ask, I know Commissioner Sobolik, that have you announced your plans for next year, so. We just want to make sure it doesn't conflict with the city commission meetings, which are on Tuesdays.
That I have to look at, I don't think it's second Tuesday though, or third Tuesday.
No, I don't think so either,
That's on
so,
my calendar that day.
yeah, we just want to make sure there's no conflict, so.
24th November, I'm pretty sure that's.
Yeah, or the 26th of November of next year.
Because that would be the fourth Tuesday. So
Okay,
it is
good.
First and third Tuesdays.
Okay, good, because we've had some times where we've had some conflicts, so, because of scheduling changes like that. So if the P and Z wants to give me some direction, that, to make that change, and then we'll make this final once the county commission approves its meeting dates.
Okay. That's everything you have?
Yeah,
I
and
have
then
one other item. We have there,
there's one other item for those of you, and I believe there are 3 people on the Planning and Zoning Commission whose terms expire this year. What the county has been doing is whenever there are positions that are opening up on any advisory boards, they're now posting them and asking them to apply, along with, any other people in the public. So, I know that Commissioner Franchuk was gonna get with the HR director, to
Right.
let her know to go ahead and post that, so.
we'll be posting of that, and then you'll have to fill out an application either with our HR, with Joetta Piercy, or online on there. And the 3 that are up for this at the end of the year are Danita Dressler, Byron Richard, and Kurt Freilich. So it's a short form just to fill out, because like in the past, we've had people saying that we're just automatically reinstating people and not giving the other people opportunities.
And I believe that actually came up at county commission last year was,
Right.
Let's open these positions up, and make it, so. I just wanted to remind those whose terms are up that this is what the county commission is doing now for all advisory boards.
So, should get those applications filled out before the end of the year, so we can approve them in our January meeting. Okay, anything else?
No, I'm finished, thank you. I anticipate that there will be a rezoning coming up in December.
Okay,
So as soon as I receive that application, I'll send you all an invite.
okay. Anything else from the commission? Not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the city coming in, Mr. Dukart and Mr. Schwinn for coming over.